Okay, we don't actually have any officers right now present because we have a new board appointee, and then we are missing two new board appointees, and then we are missing the secretary, and the vice president and president's term have run and they have not yet been replaced. So I will be acting as chair for tonight, and tonight only. So the board members present are Arnaud Hubert, Megan Langford, and Rick White. The minutes from it's November 13th, but I think it meant December 13th.
December.
Okay. So the December 13th the December 11th minutes, which included a call for public comment, supervisor's update, a discussion of board members returning or not returning, and the director of community development giving an update for the Kelseyville planning area. All right, so I would like to move that those minutes be approved.
Seconded.
All right, anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Now we're gonna open it up to public comment on anything that is on tonight's agenda, which is the LAPAC update. That I believe that Maria, the director of community development, was supposed to be here to do. Okay. There's also going to be a presentation on regional transportation plan and active transport, and a report on the Cobb development plan and potential BVAC getting one of those plans ourselves. So, is there anyone who has anything that they would like to say about anything that is on the current agenda before we move on to the presentations for tonight?
Can I just ask if you could introduce the new members and tell us who they are?
Sure. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Well, Rick isn't technically a new member.
Could you repeat?
Sorry. She asked if we could introduce the new members and tell the community a little bit about them. Rick is technically not a new member. He's been our alternate board member, but why don't you go ahead and...
Well, my name's Rick White. I'm a Lake County, Kelseyville native. I'm a realtor, and I've served as the president of the Kelseyville Business Association, past president of the Lake County Association of Realtors, and I show up at a lot of these meetings, so I guess that's enough for my accolades.
Okay, our other new member?
Arnaud Hubert, however you want to pronounce it. I've been in Kelseyville since 2007, and I'm actually a neighbor of Sharon over there.
Introducing for Mark Lips, so they know.
Yes, absolutely. So Supervisor Rasmussen is going to tell us a little bit about our other new board appointee who is not present tonight, Mark Lips.
So Mark Lips.
We turned it on. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Is that on? So Mark Lips was appointed by our board yesterday as the newest member. He and his wife own the Ripe Choice Farm and Catering over on Big Valley Road. So unfortunately, since he just got appointed, he wasn't able to work it out to be here tonight, but he will be here in March. Thank you.
All right. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to say before we move on to the supervisor updates? Okay, not seeing anyone raising hands. We're going to go to the supervisor updates. Do either of the supervisors present have anything they'd like to update us on?
I think we have some joint updates.
Great.
The big news right now are the fire hazard severity maps. And for those of you that aren't aware, and I had dental work just a little while ago, so I can't feel most of my mouth. So CAL FIRE, prompted by the governor, does these CAL FIRE, or the fire hazard severity zones. Last year we did this for the SRA, which is the state responsibility area, which is most of the county. And most of the county turned red. This is what the map looks like. The faded out colors is the SRA. That's where CAL FIRE has authority. And the LRA is the local responsibility area, which is where our local districts have responsibility.
Do you have an extra copy of that?
I have, yes. I have copies of the map and the press release. And what's important right now is that the LRA map is out for comment. It was just released a couple days ago. And you'll see the Big Valley area in the middle, where it's mostly ag land, is gray, so it's not a high fire severity area. But around the edges of the Kelseyville planning area, which is what the Big Valley Advisory Council covers, is. So you're going to see some new red and some new yellow and some new orange. And this will, public comment period is open, but they will not downgrade any of these areas. They'll only increase the severity if the public feels that way. We had a lot of difficult conversations last year when it was the SRA map, because we felt like there was not consideration given to mitigation work that had been done, a lot of different factors. But essentially, what this is looking at is if nothing changes in the next 50 years, this is what it's supposed to look like. So these are the high fire severity areas, and at this time, this remapping process takes into consideration climate issues like weather and wind and drought and precipitation. So it's fairly significant. As you can see, it turns most of our county red. This will impact building codes in the WUI area, which is a wildland urban interface. What it is not supposed to be used for is by the insurance companies.
Oh, well, good luck.
Yes, technically, legally, they're not supposed to look at these maps. However, the insurance companies now are moving into a different modeling. They are using catastrophic modeling right now. So that was approved by Commissioner Laura in the state. So moving into a different direction. So their modeling is actually much more complex. I'm just giving this to you all so that you have the information, because you do live in the LRA with Kelseyville Fire Protection District, and public comment is open. And there are more conversations to come and to be had about all of this.
So could you expand on what exactly it means for residents and homeowners, the addition of the local responsibility area to this map? Because, this is the map. The SRA was April of last year.
Yeah.
All they did Monday is they added the LRA layers there. Mm-hmm. What does it mean concretely for homeowners or residents who are within those LRAs?
There's some things in the press release that kind of explain it more.
All I seem to see is that the only difference is that local fire districts now are going to be in charge of enforcing building codes and
it's building codes for new construction.
For new construction.
It's disclaimers when you sell a home, things like that. So as Rick can tell you, you have a whole bunch of disclaimers when you sell a home. So now you're going to be selling a home in a high fire severity area. So things like that.
Okay. Is it accurate to say that there's absolutely nothing that the public can do about that, as far as?
Unless you want to make it more severe.
Right. So, okay. So great. This is something that's just happening to us and we can't do anything about it. Right.
And you can download this map from CAL FIRE's website.
On the press release, if you go to our county website, ready?
Oh, well, that brings me to
Yes.
another question.
Yes.
Currently, the county GIS doesn't seem to reflect this map or the SRA map. It looks different. It's not the same layer, not the same zones. Why is that?
We're not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah. On this press release, you can go to the county, our OES website. There's more information there. There's a place where you can give your public comment. It's just something that's happening to us again. Oh, and we were just talking about the high fire severity maps and comment period, and Mireya may have something else to add if you want to add about that. You need.
Good evening. Yes, yesterday opened the 90-day public comment period. There have been significant changes to the maps. We do encourage you to review them. The website is on a link on the press release, or we have paper copies. Oh, good, you brought them. Great. Anything, any comments for county area? Any comments for county area can be submitted to resourceplanner@lakecountyca.gov. That's Michelle is our resource planner. She'll be collecting those for us. And then we will come back before the board at the end of that public review period to adopt an ordinance that will then adopt the new fire maps.
And is it accurate that public comment can't do anything to lower the
Good luck.
designations?
Right, yeah.
All right.
No, the board gave it a really good try before, and, they just thanked them for their comments and kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Maria, there was a question about, these aren't integrated with the county GIS. maps.
Right.
Is that going to happen?
Yes, that will eventually happen, yeah, but we need to wait till they're actually adopted, and then Lon will integrate it in as a layer.
Okay.
All right. More updates aside from that bit of wonderful news.
Yes. So then, leading into the next suggestion that I have, and I brought it up before, and I think in light of the LA fires, it's a really good conversation for us to have again. Kelseyville area doesn't have fire-wise neighborhoods. We haven't done a lot of wildfire preparation here. I think it's always something that we should consider. I did reach out to John Knoll, who is a retired fire chief and part of the Canocti Fire Safe Council, and he's willing to come and have a conversation if we want to put that on the agenda. We can also have a conversation about Firewise and what it would take to start some of those communities around. It's important to note that they do give you discounts. If you're in a Firewise neighborhood, you do get a modest or tiny discount on your fire insurance, but it's significant. And I was going to check this and I forgot. I think that this zip code might be under the moratorium, though, from the Boyles fire this summer. Something to consider. So when there's a big fire and there's a declaration, typically the insurance commissioner will put a 1-year moratorium on cancellations on the zip codes around. And I'm pretty sure Kelseyville is in there. But that's something to double check. So you likely won't see a lot of cancellations this year, but what happens as soon as the moratorium's lifted, guess what? Everybody gets their cancellation at the same time. So doing more of that preparation work is important. It's important for everyone's property, for their safety, for the community, but also it does help you with insurance bills. So I'm happy to coordinate that if that's something that you want to do here.
That would be great. Yeah, we'd appreciate that.
Okay, great. And then Lars was going to come and give an update on the plans for the senior center, but they're not quite ready yet. He had, or I don't know, who was here? No one was here. Mark was here when we had the community night to view the plans. And there was a suggestion to kind of move things around a little bit more. And they felt that that suggestion was a really good one. And so now they're doing some architectural shuffling around. Essentially, this over here is going to be the main entrance, and it's going to be all windows and face the park and be really beautifully interactive with this side of town. So I think he's going to come in a month, maybe 2.
Okay, great.
So that's coming. And out for bid this summer, construction to start in the fall.
Anything else update-wise, supervisors?
Yeah, a couple of quick ones. Because part of the Big Valley boundary for this council includes the Lake Park Fire District, I'll mention that we just started recruiting today. Our board will be selecting a new fire board member. So if there's anybody in that boundary that's interested, the applications are on the Board of Supervisors webpage. Secondly, the Lake County Water Resources just started a new program, if anybody's interested, where towards the end of this month and the first week of March, you can take an hour-and-a-half training and sign up to volunteer to use an application on your phone to monitor one of 33 locations for hitch. And that's they're going to be running in the next probably couple of weeks. So if anyone's interested in that, you can find it on the Water Resources Facebook or contact them.
Okay,
So thank you.
excellent.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the Director of Lake County Community Development is here to give us an update on the LEPAC progress and where we are on the 2050 general plan.
I call it LAPAC, but I think LEPAC
I
sounds
think LEPAC makes it
classier,
sound more
doesn't it?
fancy.
It does.
I think it just
yeah.
does, right? Because French things are more fancy. Is that? Yeah. Okay.
You tell me.
I can stay here? All right, let me just pass some of these out. Thank you. I just need one so I know what I'm talking about. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, here, John? Okay. Okay, so today's handout starts with the agenda for tomorrow's General Plan Advisory Committee meeting. It goes from 3 to 6 in the board chambers. This is a public meeting. Everybody is more than welcome and strongly encouraged to attend. The save the date notices came out about a week ago, and the link to, well, the purpose of tomorrow's GPAC meeting, GPAC? That's pretty good, huh? Yeah.
I like
Is
it.
to go over land use designation changes, change recommendations from all of the 8 LAPACs. So tonight, I just wanted to, I was really excited to have this opportunity, you know, that Lars wasn't ready, I could fit right in, because you're getting a preview of what we're going to cover for tomorrow's recommendations from Kelseyville. The first section are the land use designation changes. We only have a few. If you take a look on the first page, it shows existing land use. So the changes that are included are kind of along that top line, horizontal line of the planning area boundary. And if you go down to the next page, you can see, oh, okay, yeah. So if you start at the left, you'll see that in that pink border, on just next to that triangle part, is ag. It's green. That's an small agricultural parcel, about 8 acres. And then if you go east, you'll see 4 different magenta outlined parcels. Those are all near the school. So if you flip to the next page where it shows the recommended land use designation amendments, what was previously ag is now recommended to become medium density residential. And then over back towards the school, those large parcels are recommended to switch to high density residential. The thought being, let's get our kids and our homes right near the schools, make it easier for them. And So that's it on land use designation changes. Does anybody have questions before I move on to community growth boundary changes?
Nope, I think that's clear.
Okay, so our GPAC, they take their jobs really seriously, and since we only had 3 hours for tomorrow's meeting, we scheduled a second meeting to split up some of the topics, just to make sure that we weren't rushing them through their decisions. So a second agenda will come out for next Thursday, the 20th, same time, 3 to 6, same place, board chambers. But at that meeting, we'll talk about community growth boundary amendments and planning area boundary amendments. And so you have a preview here. The existing community growth boundary is, let's see, on the first page. And since the only changes were towards the northern part, I just focused on that, kind of zoomed in. Then you'll see on the second page, those little areas that are in pink on either side of the top part of the purple part. That is on the west-hand side, that is Brian Hansen's parcel that was, part of it was switched to industrial already, so we added that into the community growth boundary right alongside, kind of the orchard was, the vineyard was the delineator. And then on the other side, that was a parcel that had already been changed to industrial, and we didn't know why it wasn't included in the community growth boundary, so we decided to just add that in too.
All right,
Any questions?
doesn't look like it.
In case you don't know, the purpose of a community growth boundary is that is where you'll typically find your municipal water and sewer. And so because you have that public infrastructure, that is also where you'll find your higher density housing, a lot of your commercial zones, and so adapting a community growth boundary is the way the community is telling the county, this is where we anticipate growth going in the future. Pretty much across the board in most of the LAPAC meetings, and Margot, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I think she was right there with me for most of them, there was not a lot of push to expand community growth boundaries. A lot of the discussion kind of fringed on, we really just don't feel like we're bursting at the seams right now. So you won't see a lot of changes in the GPACs. Then the last part, planning area boundaries. So the existing one is what's up first in black. And then I took out the existing and put in the recommended changes in white. And so that includes, so what it does not include, you see that little airport icon? That's Lamson. The Kelseyville LAPAC said, we want to keep Lamson. The Lakeport LAPAC said, we want Lamson, so I'm not doing anything right now. We're just going to give that to the board. And so that is not included in recommended changes. One thing you will notice is an extension on that southeast corner or area, region. It kind of had, 90-degree angles, but now it kind of goes at a diagonal. That is absorbing a portion going into Cobb Mountain. That Cobb Mountain didn't really feel kind of identified with their area, and Kelseyville was amenable to adding it on. So that's that change. I think that's about it. Oh, one other thing that's not included in here is if you look at the land in between the city of Lakeport and the border of Kelseyville, that's the Rancheria. And so Kelseyville said, we're fine taking it in. Lakeport said, we're fine taking it in. Both groups said, we just want to know what the Rancheria thinks. So we have started those meetings. And so because there's not clear consensus, one way or the other, that was also not included in these recommended changes.
Is there time to have that included once you get input
sure.
from the Rancheria?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We had our initial meeting with them yesterday, and that was one of 13 different questions that they're going to be discussing amongst the tribe members.
Okay.
So when they get back to us, we can do that switch. The only things that become problematic at this point are late changes that might actually impact the CEQA evaluation.
Okay.
And so that would not be one of them.
Okay.
I'm dying to talk about it. So ask questions. Yeah, Margot, can I give her the microphone? Oh, sorry.
There you go. and Margot, it tilts up and down, so, okay. There you go.
Thank you, Maria. Good evening, Big Valley. Margot Kambara. Just a couple comments on the proposed community growth boundary change for our planning area. So at our LAPAC meeting, there was concern about taking agricultural lands out of production. And it turns out that that's a big concern across the county. At the agricultural stakeholders meeting, that was a big theme. Let's preserve our agricultural identity and take it very seriously when lands zoned ag are taken out of ag. So that was the main thing that I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Margot makes a really good point. The county does not like to take stuff out of ag because once you take land out of primary agricultural use, you don't get it back. And we only have a finite amount of prime ag soils. And so, yeah, so the consideration of that particular change is something that the board will have to take an overview, kind of a look at it, but they will take that very seriously.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to say on this topic? No? Doesn't look like it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does somebody get this or do I leave it here?
You can leave it, yeah. The next thing on the agenda is a presentation on regional transportation and active transport plans. Go ahead.
You don't have to stand there, but use the microphone. Whatever you want to do, whatever you feel comfortable.
This might be fine. I actually have a few slides on a short PowerPoint that might help. Anyway, my name is John Spica. I'm the Senior Transportation Planner with the Lake Area Planning Council. We are the regional transportation planning agency for the Lake County region. I'll explain what that means in just a second. But I do appreciate the council having us tonight. We're trying to get the word out that we are developing or updating our regional transportation plan and active transportation plan. And I'll explain what that is as we go on. So, like I said, I'm from the Lake Area Planning Council, and we are the Regional Transportation Planning Agency. We are a regional entity that is made up of elected officials from the different jurisdictions around this region, which happens to be the county, or the county boundaries, I should say. But our board is made up of 2 county supervisors, 2 council members from each city, and 2 at-large members. So the primary idea here is to get local officials to think in a regional manner when it comes to transportation planning, because a lot of these decisions affect more than just the actual cities or county themselves. We have a couple primary advisory bodies, one being a technical advisory committee made up of public works and community development officials, and another one is social services transportation advisory council, which is basically, it's a lot of transit, but it's focused on senior residents, disabled residents, and low-income residents, and helping them get around from point A to point B. And then there's a couple other roles we play that are a little bit more minor, like we administer the call box, the emergency call box program in the county, and the APC board actually is the board of the Lake Transit Authority as well. So what does the Lake Area Planning Council do? We are, a lot of funding that comes from the feds or the state, we it comes through us, and we try to work with the different local elected officials to decide where the money is going to be best spent for the region. This includes, shoot, my eyesight's not as good as it used to be. We also work closely with the public works departments to try to help get funding for specific projects that are worked on. So for county public works, obviously we work with Glenn March and his equivalent at the cities as well. But we also prepare transportation plans, and the big one is our regional transportation plan. It's sort of our general plan, so to speak, for our agency. It gets updated every 4 years. It's a 20-year plan, so it kind of looks out of 20-year horizon, and just what's going to kind of, benefit the region as far as the big projects. So like I said, it's a long-range planning document. It promotes safe and efficient transportation transportation systems and movement of people and goods. It's made up of several elements, and each of them represents kind of a transportation mode. So when people think of transportation, they think mostly of roads, which is a big part of it. But there's much more to it. There's, of course, state highway system is run by Caltrans. There's the local streets and roads that's within a jurisdiction, either the county or the cities. There's an active transportation component or non-motorized component, which is bicycling and walking and sidewalks and bike lanes and that sort of thing. There's a transit element. There's a tribal transportation element. There's an aviation element, and basically you get the idea. It's just basically any way you get from point A to point B.
Where are we in the 4-year update cycle right now?
So the 2022 was the last adopted plan, February of 2022. So 2026 is when we're expecting to adopt the next one. And so for the next year, I'm trying to get as much public input as I can, and that's why my kind of tour here through the councils, and in fact, Supervisors Pyska and Rasmussen are probably going to be getting tired of this presentation. They've already heard it once or twice. But we are trying to get the word out. We have a website with some surveys and kind of interactive mapping where you could drop pins and leave comments and give us your ideas of what you think are priorities for your area.
Is there a link for that on the county website?
It can be, and I will make it sure. I also have, we have our own website, and I could pass out my card. And but at the end of my spiel here, so the needs and prioritization is sort of what the plan is focusing on. Like I said, we're trying to get as much community input for these separate elements that are sort of listed up there, if you can see them. And then the feedback that we get from the local agencies as well as the public will kind of drive how we list projects. Now, when projects are listed in the plan, they become eligible for grant funding and that sort of thing. So it's kind of critical that we kind of have them in this 20-year plan, no matter how small or big. If it's important enough, then it should be in this plan. Obviously, the priorities are, there's a budgetary limitations on how much funding could get anything done. So that's why you kind of got to balance your priorities with the projects. So to your question on where we're at, we're going to have some outreach. I'm going to most of the town halls and advisory councils with the same presentation. We're going to get some public input. We're going to have, speak with the different public works agencies and community development departments to come up with the priority needs. We'll hope to have some environmental review and CEQA stuff done over the summer and have a draft ready by the fall before our board. And then once the draft comes out, we'll have some comments. People will be able to comment on that itself, and any revisions will go before the board for a final approval in February. And so that's basically what I'm here for, is we want to hear from you. I unfortunately, foolishly failed to bring my flyer with the QR code. The QR code will get you to our website where the survey is and the link to the mapping tool. if that's not, I do have as far as surveys go, if you're not comfortable doing it that way, I did bring a limited amount of hard copies. If anyone would want one of those, I'd be happy to provide and arrange a method for me to pick them up at a later date. Also, my email and our physical mailing address for our office. And I do have a card if anyone is interested, in my email address or the website, my website, which you'll be able to navigate your way to the actual project site. And that is it. I'd be happy to talk, any questions, yes?
A topic of conversation that comes up here often in Kelseyville is the need for more sidewalks and also bike lanes. It's nearly impossible to ride your bike anywhere in Big Valley without taking your life in your own hands. And one of the things that this group has talked about is figuring out how to develop more trails for walking and biking to different points around the basin. So how could you get that input?
Yeah, you know what, and I just realized there was a glitch here and I might have passed over a slide. This is actually our regional transportation plan / active transportation plan. So when I talked about the different elements of different modes of transportation, the non-motorized element is our active transportation plan. It's a little confusing because it's part of our regional transportation plan, but it's also a standalone document itself, an active transportation plan. And once projects are within that, they're eligible for a state funding program called the Active Transportation Program. Every 2 years, you could apply and that sort of thing. So, long-winded answer to your question is that plan itself. In fact, you know, if you're on the website, you could look at the existing plan, and I have a hard copy here if anyone's interested in just flipping through it. But it includes a list of active transportation projects such as bike lanes and sidewalk gaps. And the Lake Area Planning Council is you know, we do a lot of plans, and we did a pedestrian facilities needs study a couple years back that prioritized kind of a top 10 list of projects for several different distinct areas of the county, and that's also available on there. But so the idea is, you know, once those are identified, and if if there's some kind of request that we just, you know, help, say with Public Works at the county, we'd be happy to help with with an active transportation application. You know, it's a pretty substantial program that the state has been doing for about last 10 years for sidewalk and bike facility type projects. So, you know, if you know, we'd be happy to work with Glenn if that's something that rises to, you know, rises up the flagpole.
What about
Yeah, and there are plenty of needs. From the studies we've done, there are plenty of sidewalk gaps. There are plenty of bicycle trail gaps. And in fact, then I guess Lars just worked on a recreational trails plan that is similar, although it's not exactly transportation, although there's a little fine line between recreation and transportation. But the trails plan kind of sinks in well with the active transportation plan. You got a question?
Where does transportation safety come into play? Is it something you guys trade off between you and Public Works, or is there some other organization? It's, you know, for signage, for example, stop signs, warning signs, you know, speed limit signs.
Yeah, I mean, well, safety obviously is a big part of the road systems and everything that we're working with as far as the priority projects. And for instance, the Lake 29 project that I'm sure you're all aware of, that they've been working on for, you know, quite a while now, was all driven by safety concerns of kind of over, you know, too windy roads and that sort of thing, bigger shoulders and all of that. Signage is more of a kind of a local control thing. So, I mean, that's something that I think the Public Works and board would probably have to, you know, come up with, you know, concerns on that end, and then work with Public Works for stop signs and that sort of thing.
Right. We have still a lot of complaints about the speed on Main Street here in Kelseyville, and even though that we've now got a couple of signs that have flashing lights about the speed limit, still doesn't seem to get the message across. So
Yeah.
someone has suggested maybe we install a stop sign like on 3rd and Main to make that force people to slow down. But
There
again,
are,
it's like we have to fight to get these kind of things, and we've been talking about this for a lot of years.
yeah, unfortunately, a lot of these things don't
And the
happen
sad thing
very
is, we're
quick
worried
either.
about some little kid running across the street and getting creamed because some idiot showing off with their, you know, fast car.
Yeah, and that is an issue that comes up throughout the whole region. There are other methods besides stop signs. There's, you know, of slowing traffic down, whether they're speed bumps or narrowing the roads to kind of slow traffic down and that sort of thing. But, you know, the
Those are all things
planning
that-
and kind of,
Those are things that should be directed not to you though, but to community development.
or Public Works.
Or Public
or
Works,
both,
okay.
yes. And then we'd be happy to work with them to try to get funding for some of those projects if,
But for the initial call to arms about something like that.
yeah, we don't have that authority.
Okay.
It's definitely a county.
Yeah,
So,
when-
but I did reach out, and we had a speed study done. I think it was a year and a half ago. It didn't show excessive speeding, unfortunately, even though
That
we.
was only like for one day for like 4 hours.
I
It's
know.
hardly a study.
I know, but it did happen through, Lisa did organize that. So that was one piece, but now I'm on the APC. Actually, Brad and I both are. He's the alternate, so that's good. But I brought this up with Glenn when he was here, I think it was December. Do you remember when he came to the meeting and he sat here? And afterwards, I had a conversation with him about this speed issue on on Main Street in Kelseyville. And what his suggestion was is let's bring him back, let's have a conversation so he understands, hears everything, and then we put it in a plan, and then it goes on the list, and we figure out how to prioritize funding. So that was his solution. It's different than our last director. I think it's a little bit more proactive, which is good. So happy to bring him back and get that on the agenda whenever you want. Just let me know.
Great.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's
Okay.
do it. Okay.
I can't promise an immediate timeline,
Sure. Just,
it's in the works.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yes, question.
Thank you. Margot Kambara. I have a few questions. So our regional transportation plan, does that account for types of energy used by the vehicles and as well as what kind of vehicles are going to be used? Does this include public transportation?
It does include public transportation.
I think you have to.
I'm sorry. Yes, it does include public transportation.
Okay, so yeah, that's really interesting because before the fires, Lake County was known as the cleanest air in the state. And so we would like to preserve that. So if we can move to vehicles that don't burn fossil fuels, that'd be great. But also, we are very rural, and a lot of people live in remote areas, so a regular bus schedule might not make sense, especially economic sense. So is there consideration for other solutions, like an EV van that's almost on demand or something like that? And I'll take my comment off.
Sure. The first question, as far as zero-emission vehicles, that type of thing, you know, we do work with that. In fact, we just received grant funding for a plan on that very topic, mainly the infrastructure plan on improving like the infrastructure of charging stations or zero-emission fueling, i.e. maybe like hydrogen or something along those lines. I know our transit agency is looking at hydrogen buses in the very near future and actually building a storage for that itself, and there's actual funding for that, which is the big thing. You know, you could always talk about these things, but until they're funded, they're just in a plan, and they could sit in a plan for a long time unless we get that. And your second question is sort of the remote kind of areas as far as the rural county goes. Our transit agency for the county we work closely with, and the same sort of thing. We try to get them locked into funding sources to implement some of their plans. We have a transit development plan that was just adopted a few years ago that we helped work with. And that looked at microtransit as a possibility for certain areas. Budget constraints are tough, so a lot of it has to, rides on that, where we might get the funding to work with a microtransit kind of system in certain areas, and it would be kind of more the populated areas like Lakeport and the surrounding regions, or Clear Lake and the surrounding regions. Yes. Can you tell me what that means, microtransit? Microtransit is as this woman mentioned, was like sort of a shuttle service to kind of, it's more, a little bit more on-demand kind of transportation. Instead of waiting for the bus, you could kind of, like with an app on your phone, say, I'm in this region or something, and it kind of makes the rounds and picks up people that way. And there are some other options through the transit agency. They have like a dial-a-ride program for certain seniors that are eligible, and that sort of thing too. So,
Do boat ramps fall under your scope?
I'm sorry?
Do boat ramps fall under your scope, and lake
They
access?
Don't. That was one we are considering. We did apply for a planning grant to look at ferry service around the lake.
Wow.
As a possibility. A long time ago, I think in the late 80s, there was a feasibility study done. I don't know if it totally penciled out in the late 80s, so we thought, well, let's try maybe another plan or another feasibility plan, and we applied and were unsuccessful a year or so ago. And we can consider like looking at that again. Our board has actually asked about that. For tourism purposes or actual transportation purposes, it's not a horrible idea. It just has to be able to pencil out. So.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And if you could make that link available somehow on a county website so that we can
Yes,
direct
I'll
people
work
to it,
with,
that would be helpful.
I'll work with the Public Works
Great.
Director to get it on their side, or maybe even Maria.
I mean, I know you're bringing droves of people in to comment on the PAC stuff, so if we can add this in and just, it'd be great. Okay. All right, thank you so much for coming. Next on our agenda is a report on the Cobb Development Plan, and talking about maybe how the BVAC could get something like that for ourselves, and if that's worth it, and if it's worked out for them, for their expectations. So, gentlemen, please introduce yourselves.
Thank you. My name's Chris Nettles. I'm one of the officers from the Cobb Area Council. And first of all, let me say thank you for reaching out and inviting me. I just sort of on a broader philosophical level, I think it's really important that the advisory councils, or at least in conversation with each other about what we're doing and what's working for us and what's not working for us. And I think there's a lot of potential there. The Cobb Area Redevelopment Plan is something that I think the Cobb Area Council is particularly proud of. It's something that came out of the Valley Fire and the formation of the Cobb Area Council that Jessica was deeply involved with as well. And I think that process started for applying for the grant in 2019, and it took a couple of years to actually complete. It continues. We've made it through, and I think Elliot will speak to this here in just a moment. We had some major priorities that we were trying to address during the first 5 years, and we've really addressed the majority of those priorities, and Elliot will talk to you a little bit about that. So that's also something that I think we're very proud of, and this has been a really important guiding document for us. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say. Elliot, I'm going to let Elliot introduce himself, and Elliot was really the driving force behind making this plan happen, and really continue to be in partnership over how this emerges over time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elliot Hurwitz, and I'm the director of the Siegler Springs Community Redevelopment Association. We're a local 501c3. Literally, we filed our papers before we actually even moved back up into Cobb, knowing that there were things that a nonprofit can do that a government can't. And one of the things that we really have found as a really cool working partnership in Cobb is to have both our local municipal advisory council, which is can operate as an official government affiliated organization as well as a local nonprofit. So sometimes, you know, we kind of play tag team and say, well, who can apply for what, and how can we do this? So one of the things that I also wanted to note is you're hearing a lot about plans. We plan about this, we plan that. Why so much planning? In fact, you've got two professional planners in the room, basically have built careers around this. And one of the things about the reason why you want to have a plan is that for many, many forms of funding, you quote, is it in the plan? Is it in the regional transportation plan? Is it in the community development plan? And often, being in a plan is an actual prerequisite for even applying for funding. So this is, you know, one of the kind of core dynamics at work. The other thing is it also, even if you're not looking for government funding, which, you know, will often require plan placement, there are other foundations and corporate funding sources that we have tapped on Cobb to bring resources into our community. And you really, if you can quote, oh yeah, here it is in the, you know, Cobb, you know, official development plan adopted by the local council, that does help. So that being said, we took a bit of a different kind of approach to putting this plan together, because often, you know, you've got a transportation plan, you've got a zoning plan. We wanted to look, because we know, living there, that our community is a whole integrated, it's got all these different elements. In fact, there's even a kind of fancy name for it. It's like a complex adaptive system. Like any organism, you've got different organisms, and you're only going to understand how really it's growing and developing if you understand how everything is working together. And so we focused on using a particular kind of planning framework that was developed for rural communities by some academics in the Midwest called the Community Capitals System. And this is just one way to look at it. It basically looks at the community as 7 different main elements that are working together. Yes, there's, you know, the capital, money. What's the financial system? How does all that work together? But how does that integrate with the environment, with the ecology? How does that integrate with what's already built, the buildings, the roads, all of the water mains, the electric lines? Then you have a culture, you have a living culture, the ways in which people interact. How does that, and that does influence everything, what you can do, what you can talk about. It's a slight subtle difference, but there's social capital, which is not just your culture. It's like, what are the organizations? What are the kind of community organizations that you have, the ways people actually exert influence on the future? So you really need to understand how all those works. And then also, finally, the people themselves. Well, there's political capital. What kind of leverage do you have? How united are you as a community? How many people come to your council meetings? What affects how effectively you work together? And finally, just human capital. Are people healthy? Are they educated? So we took this framework of 7 capitals, and we did a fairly extensive dive in terms of, well, what do we know about where we are a few years after the fire? And this then introduces you to one of the big challenges is, well, what do we know? You know, how many buildings were destroyed? How many have been rebuilt? How many miles of roadway do we have? What kind of condition are they in? So we went and did as deep a dive as we could, getting all the different kinds of data that we have. I'm sorry I didn't bring something to show you up there,
Okay.
but this document is filled with charts and graphs and maps and coded maps, just kind of to give a comprehensive view as we could of our community as we understood it.
And who actually produced those maps and studies and gathered the information?
Well, we actually, to actually get the raw data for it, it was a combination of our little nonprofit, and we also contracted from your good friends, Community Development Services, who do this professionally, you know, throughout the region, and we hired them to do that, which I'll back up a little bit. We were extremely fortunate to be able to get a significant grant to do this. And again, this is, you know, grantsmanship is a whole other, you know, topic to, you know, and there are reasons why and connections and, you know, knowing how to write grants. We were able to do this. This was part of a grant that we also used for some other development projects up in Cobb. But
What was the cost of the study?
it was about, we spent about $110,000 to do this. I will also say that I think that one of the strongest things about this report is, I think it's gorgeous. And we had an extremely talented local artist who put in a tremendous amount of work to making this as the stunning document that it is. So, and frankly, you know, we put in, I think if you kind of counted the hours that we put in, I think I probably made around $3 or $4 an hour, you know, over the course of a couple of years putting this together. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. What were the main goals that you identified in 2022, and how has that progressed since then?
Glad you asked. We came up with a whole series of, for each of these 7 capitals, we came up with a series of strategies, and then we had a series of priority strategies, 11 priority strategies altogether. And, you know, not all of them have been completely met, but we've, I think Chris and I were saying, well, yeah, well, we didn't really do that one, but it actually is happening ongoing. I can read them off to you. One was we wanted to establish a forest stewardship working group as a subcommittee of the Cobb Area Council. Check, big check. It's a good group, meeting regularly. We wanted to increase broadband service up there and do a pilot project. That proved to be, you know, as you know, a very frustrating and complex, not completely successful. However, there are other things that are going on in that area. So half a check, maybe. Produce the next Blackberry Cobbler Festival, double check. You know, really, you know, put a lot of focus on that.
As a cultural capital.
As a cultural capital one. We had something about partnering, you know, trying to build better business-to-business relationships between the businesses in Cobb as well as the ones in Kelseyville and Middletown. You know, not doing all that well with that. We wanted to, one of the other things that this funding stream set up was to establish a website called Explore Cobb CA. So for the first time, we had our own marketing, tourism marketing website. That happened. We wanted to increase our Cobb Area Council participation through a particular, you know, campaign. We didn't get to that. Haven't done that yet. Improve forest health and fire safety through local Firewise communities. I think that's been a really good success up there. We now have 6 active Firewise communities, as well as another one in process. Again, a lot of this is word of mouth, neighbor to neighbor, understanding, cross-education. Establish, another big one, establish a local park. Thank you, Supervisor Peisel.
Right.
You know, this is, you know, something that we're the only area in the county that doesn't have a county park yet. But it's been approved, the county has now appropriated, designs are underway, so check. We had an idea, in addition to the Blackberry Cobbler Festival, to have some local mini festivals. Not really happened. The other one is to revise the Cobb portion of the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, and that our company just received a significant USDA award to do that. We'll see if how that actually rolls out, given the uncertainty on federal funding. But we got our first federal grant for Cobb just this fall, and we're just beginning to implement that. So I think that's, this really has provided kind of a bully pulpit. It's been a way for us to continue to talk this up. It's been a way to communicate and educate our local community about it. And I'll also say, just one of the real acknowledgements, gratitude, really thanks to Director Turner for kind of reviewing this and helping us think through just the kind of technical planning. We did even think about, okay, well, how do these 7 capitals cross-cut against the general plan? So that's also been helpful for us as we moved along as well. So that's,
I mean, it sounds like you were able to use that to leverage some actual tangible results. You feel like that was...
Again, I won't say that they only happened because of this plan, because they didn't.
But do you feel like that was, I mean, $110,000 isn't nothing. Do you feel like that was a worthwhile use of that money? I mean, if,
It's I think it is. I mean, obviously, because, I'm...
I mean, you did, how much was the grant for? Was that...
Grant was $200,000.
Okay.
We also established a small business support development loan fund, a revolving loan fund, and we also were able to provide specific funding dollars for the marketing campaign, for establishing that Explore Cobb CA website, and continue to promote social media marketing efforts for a while for the community.
And how would you say, I mean, sort of the best, most productive thing you've been able to use that plan for in order to get tangible results? Is it, when you go to other organizations to try to get money or things like that and saying, oh, but it's in the plan and this is what we want to do? And, I mean, what's the most sort of tangible result that you've seen flow from that?
Well, I think a couple of tangible results is even though there were things in the works, we continued to use this as a focusing document so that we're not scattered. And the money that we do generate from the Cobbler Festival, say, this helps us set priorities for how we're going to use those funds. So in that way, it's been a focusing document. And then I think the Community Wildfire Protection Plan is a big deal, because having our own, similar to a local area plan, there's the Lake County-wide Community Wildfire Protection Plan, but having something that is specific to the needs of the people in our area is really critical, I think, and it maps on in some ways to the local area plan model. So I think I'll speak for myself. I think this has been really important, and I feel like the other council members have also found this to be a focusing document. And one thing you were saying about the little mini events and festivals, Kathy McCarthy, who's the chair of the Cobb Area Council, calls me every once in a while and says, "We need to get that going. That's in our plan." And I'm like, "Yes, we do." So that's how we use it.
Was there information in there that you were surprised by when everything was kind of put together? Were you thinking like, oh, I think our community is going to prioritize this one thing, and they absolutely didn't? Or information that you just...
Well, a couple things you just trigger in terms of what was I surprised at was, frankly, looking at the demographics. Was surprising to realize, even though Cobb as a whole, if you look at the available household income data, is at or slightly above the county as a whole, there also is the highest proportion of low-income seniors in the county live in Cobb.
That surprises me too.
It's also a very high level of disabled seniors living in Cobb. So that really is kind of helping us focus on support for our Lions Club, which does our outreach and other things like. So that was one of the things that was surprising. that will brings up something about this whole data issue. Is you'll notice that most data resources, I mean, who collects data? The federal government or big corporations? And they usually want to see big collections of people. Even the government data, census data, for example, for various kinds of confidentiality reasons, they don't want to focus down on small areas. Say, oh, I know who that is. You know, so it can be real challenging to get accurate data for a small area. And in fact, in each section of this, for each of the capitals, we say, this is what we know, and hey, we would really like to know, you know, well, what is the ADR? What's the average daily rate for hotel rooms in Cobb?
Right.
And that was not something that's easily available.
You read my mind. That was
Yeah.
the thing that I was going to say was surprising, was what we don't know. And that's, I think, a critical piece as well, what we don't know that we'd like to.
And this was a 3-year process from start to finish.
Yep.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for these gentlemen?
Elliot, do you have that, a PDF available? or-
It's
that can be-
online.
It is online, okay.
At the sscra.org website, you go to
SSCRA.
projects, you can download it.
Yeah.
It's also on the Cobb Area Council website.
Cobb Area Council, okay, I'll look for it.
Yeah. sscra.org. Go to our programs, we're very proud of it.
That's fantastic.
Right.
We didn't have it.
Right.
So it was through this research that we found out that there was a 20% rebuild rate.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, you know, we worked with community development, said, well, how many permits did we have? How many permits were pulled for new construction between, 2016 and 2020? And
Okay.
that's in here.
Okay. And I think you had a question, or?
Same question.
Same question. Okay. Can we get a copy? All right. Anybody else have questions? Weston, yeah.
So the funding, when you went after the grant funding, did you run that through, you didn't run it through Cobb Area Council, you ran it through the nonprofit?
This one we did through the Cobb Area Council. This was a grant to the Cobb Area Council that then contracted with our nonprofit to produce the report.
And thank you, guys.
Okay.
I think this is, I really appreciate you guys putting this on the agenda, and I really appreciate the conversation that you and I had. I think this is really, really important. I mean, the drum that I continue to beat is about planning and future planning and all of that. This is a long-term piece, but it helps provide direction for the BVAC, and I believe that it's a natural partnership with KBA and the BVAC to put something like this together.
And I really, really recommend anyone who hasn't read it to read it, because it's an impressive document. I was surprised by some of the things that were in it that kind of were different than my assumptions about Cobb, not living there. But I think that it's likely that we would find out some things about our area and some needs that we would identify that we may not know about. So
I have a question for you.
Yes.
What were you surprised by?
I was surprised by the rebuild rate. I definitely did not think that was going to be the number. And I was surprised by the how focused the data was and how it was able to get down to such a granular level. You know, I mean, the amount of work that it must have taken to kind of get that information and pull it all together is a little bit mind-blowing.
You want to say about how we got from the big document to this?
Again, we started out, the first edition of this, which Jeff and his company helped us put together, was about 5 times as big and much denser.
Okay.
And I brought this to the council and said, no. We need something that is much more graphic, much more communicative.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a major rewrite that we went through after that first. I think we learned quite a bit about, focusing this for the kind of use that we end up using it for.
But just the gathering and the collating of that information itself. I mean, I can't imagine, I can't even think of where to start to get all that stuff and put it together.
Well, to tell you the truth, it became somewhat obsessed and driven by, after the fire in particular, I think a lot of us have discovered a depth of affection for the place and a fascination with the place itself, that kind of, oh yeah, I want to know everything about it, you know? And so that kind of enthusiasm kind of was able to kind of generate, and I think that continues to build,
Sure.
you know, as we kind of work collaboratively up there going
All
forward.
right. So Jessica, you're going to give us some money for this, right?
Yes, here you go. If this is something, like maybe not to quite this scale, but if this is something that you want to pursue, I would suggest inviting Jeff Lucas over. That's who Elliot's been talking about. He's right here. He was instrumental in writing the grant and putting together the project. So just to kind of pick his brain on what it is you might want to see and where some funding opportunities might be, and what resources and capacity could be available. So just to maybe tailor it more to what you would want.
And is, to that point also, Jessica, is there any potential opportunity for working with the county level economic development person? I'm blanking on his
Ben.
name. Yes, Ben.
Yeah. I think it would be a good conversation. I mean, we've already had Ben here a few times when we've talked about trails and the economic impact of trails. Yeah, I think it would be good to have both of them, and then maybe you guys could come back and just kind of have an initial conversation of what you might want to see and what kind of project you would want to pursue.
Be great, yeah.
Good conversation, because I was thinking in the Lake County 2050 timeline, when we have draft documents for public review, so late summer, fallish time, I was hoping to be able to use LAPACs as sort of the public meeting space for those sort of public input sessions. And we may want to revisit this topic at that time and get a community plan similar to this inserted into the local area plan as a priority.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, good thinking. That was good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this project was started before we were doing area plan updates, and it was begun to be a supplement to area plan.
I'll just add, if we go down this road, and I'll plant the seed, that if we're going to try and find funding for this, that we include in our plan sustainable energy, like how we can have our own renewable energy source that either powers downtown or our growth boundary.
Yeah. Anything we can do to put less money in PG&E's pockets, I think, is going to be the top of everyone's priority list. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? That was the last item on our agenda. Margot, yeah.
Aloha, Big Valley. Lucerne Alpine Senior Center hosts free ukulele and guitar class, group class, Thursdays at noon. Make friends and make live music.
Awesome.
Be there. Thanks.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Well, I think that is a great note to end on. Thank you, everyone who came tonight, and we are now closing the meeting at 7:15. We will see you guys hopefully next month for our March meeting, which is going to be March the 12th. Same time, same place.